Welcome back to Fox on Trends. We're talking about America's love affair with their cars. Now, joining us to discuss the patterns in car buying is marketing expert Audrey Gusky. And we're still continuing our conversation with David E. Davis Jr., who is an automobile magazine from Southfield, Michigan. Audrey, first off, let's talk for a moment about the fact that more people are buying automobiles than ever before. This is a great month right now. October is a great time to find great deals. And people are really having to think hard about their choices, but they are making that big purchase.
Absolutely. When you think about it, the car purchase is the second biggest purchase that we make as consumers next to buying a home. And so there's a lot of nervousness attached to it. And what we're finding as consumers that it's getting easier to get in the showroom. We no longer have to go back to that secret little room and deal with the salesperson who then deals with the manager. They even used to put aquariums in some of those rooms to try to calm the nerves of people. But we're finding nowadays that there's more one-price shopping or value shopping that Saturn had started in '91, and we're finding that more people are leasing cars too, which is interesting. That's increased significantly. About 20% of all the new cars are actually lease purchases, which makes sense because what's happening is the prices of new cars are going up significantly. Yes.
Mr. Davis, are you finding that to be true too, that more people are leasing cars and that dealers are willing to give consumers more choices on how to get a car these days?
Leases are very hot now. It's a very convenient, very easy way to get into a new car, although it's terribly important that the consumer know everything he possibly can about leases, leasing, and what the rules are before he jumps into it.
They have to read the fine print because you can really get involved in a lease without knowing what all the restrictions are.
Absolutely, but there's so many advantages to it because when you're buying a new car, the average price of a new car is about $20,000 now, and the minute you drive out of the showroom, you're losing $5,000.
And some deals actually say you have to put no money down at all, and you can drive out of the showroom with a new car.
That's exactly right. And with the leasing picture, it's really changing the whole landscape of the automobile industry because now there are so many used cars on the marketplace because of the leasing that's up every 2 or 4 years.
So that's really a good option for consumers to take advantage of used cars that don't have as many miles on them.
Absolutely, and we're finding more and more of the car purchases are in the used cars, and that stigma of buying a used car is no longer there. A lot of times you can get a great bargain and a great deal, and the styles of cars do not change over the past couple of years, so you can really get a very stylish, modern-looking car for a minimum price.
We were talking earlier about the fact that more women are buying trucks. Why?
More women are buying cars and trucks overall, and it's interesting because the patterns in the past used to be that women did not feel comfortable buying any kind of a vehicle, but we're seeing now about half of the car purchases are made by women, and what they're doing is they're very savvy consumers. They're better educated than the male shopper. They're doing their research, they're doing their homework. They're not impulsive shoppers as we may think, and they're spending significant amounts of time in this purchase decision, and they're making very wise decisions.
Car dealers know that when they're dealing with women, they're tough negotiators. They can't take advantage.
Absolutely, they are the best consumers out there. It's interesting though because there's very few women car salespeople out there still, and there's only less than 20%. So even though there's more women entering the showrooms to buy, we still need to get more women into the showrooms actually selling.
Okay, great advice. We're going to take another break, and up next, are manufacturers making safer cars and trucks? We'll find out when Fox on Trends returns. Stay with us. Welcome back to Fox on Trends. Well, buying a car isn't quite as easy as it used to be, but it's a lot more fun. Yet there's one question that most consumers have in their mind when shopping for a new car. Is it safe? Now, joining us is Patrick Boyle, who's with Car and Travel Magazine. We're also continuing our conversation with David E. Davis of Automobile Magazine and our marketing expert here, Audrey Gusky. Welcome to all of you again as we continue this conversation about buying a car, which can be a daunting task for some because there's so many choices out there, and we're talking about the popularity of sport utility vehicles and the fact that people are not buying as many luxury cars as they used to. But I do understand that more affluent people are spending the money to buy more expensive cars in America today.
They sure are. The price of cars, as you mentioned, is nearly about $20,000 for the average sedan now. But the fact is people are going out and buying them, and people are buying the sport utilities, as you've talked about, and even minivans.
And people are taking more vacations, short trip. They're willing to spend the time on the road.
Right. Americans are driving a lot more than ever before. The vehicle miles traveled are up. And what they're doing, too, is splitting up their trips. We're taking more trips in our vehicles, but we're making them shorter trips. It's no longer the 2-week big vacation with the family, but it's more 3-, 4-, and 5-day trips now.
You know, Mr. Davis, does it surprise you that more people do want to make these bigger investments in their automobile, particularly with the fact that there is a depreciation factor that we have to take into account here as soon as a car leaves the showroom?
It's an interesting thing. The depreciation factor is real, and it does hurt us very badly every time we buy a new car, but that never stops us. It's an area where we tend to be sort of irrational.
But are our cars and vehicles today safer than ever before?
I would certainly say so.
Would you agree?
They sure are. American consumers have demanded safety, safety, safety the last few years, and manufacturers have responded with all these technological gadgets that essentially are trying to make it almost impossible for you eventually to hurt yourself or get into an accident with your car. The cars are a lot safer now than they used to be. One of the best examples is airbags. A few years ago, they weren't that common. Now you shop, you expect to get a couple of airbags, and now we even have side impact airbags coming out in the cars.
And this is one of the things that women are looking for.
Right, and we're taking a look at video right now where we have all these interesting new gadgets and things in cars. Talk to me about some of the new technology that's out there and some of the perks that come with some of these automobiles.
Well, what's interesting is you've got cars now that have the automatic mapping, the electronic mapping that can get you certain places where you want to go electronically,
Literally,
right in your dashboard.
It's doing the thinking for you. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, we're really into the next millennium for a lot of these technologies. And not only the car technology is changing, but the way we're buying cars are changing as well.
You can buy them on the internet now?
Internet, you can buy cars. You can do it through the home shopping networks. People are also...
How can you really do that, though, without seeing the car in person? I mean,
well, that seems to be the glitch there.
Yeah.
People like to get their information from these different sources through some kind of online services. But in reality, they need to sit there. They need to feel the weight of the car in their hands. They need to really smell the car as well. We're also seeing more of the younger people. They're buying the used cars and they're not really getting into the new cars, and I think that's going to be a concern because, as we've been talking about, the higher priced cars are entering the marketplace, but more of the mid-priced or lower priced cars are in a sense disappearing from the market, and that might be a problem for manufacturers in the future.
Mr. Davis, what about the home shopping network and the internet for buying automobiles? Do you think it's a good idea?
It is a very good idea. It's very useful. The internet is also a wonderful source of automotive information. And I have to point out that car magazines, including things like Consumer Reports and Automobile Magazine, are a wonderful place to get your new car buying information.
And
what kinds of tips can we really pick up from these magazines? What can consumers really come away with when they read these magazines? Because really, isn't it really the art of doing the deal in the showroom?
It pretty much is, although, you know, it's funny, I was just on the internet last night going through exactly what we're talking about, and you can find many of these magazines, in fact, on the internet. And one of the most valuable things you can find out is knowing what the dealer knows, because you can get online and find out about the price that the dealer actually pays for the car and how much the dealer pays for various options. And that's an incredibly powerful piece of information you have when you go in and sit down with the dealer and you begin negotiating. You can find out all sorts of things about the I shouldn't say kickbacks, the money back they get, the bonuses they get for selling a certain number of vehicles. Yeah. So you understand how they make money, and you can try to make a reasonable deal because you have more information.
And obviously the wiser consumer you are, the better decisions you're going to be making. And for a car like this, when you're spending $20,000 or more, it's critical to have that information.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
People going into showrooms armed with information really have an advantage there.
That's the big key. You have to know how much the car is costing and how much all the various options are, and basically what it, especially with leasing, which was mentioned earlier, it gets very tricky with lease deals.
Bottom line, though, lease or buy? What do you recommend, Audrey?
I usually recommend buying. Leasing is an advantage for a lot of consumers, but purchasing the car and having it and then the resale value of it, a lot of times you can make money on it. But my recommendation is buy used.
Okay. Thank you to all my guests. This is a very interesting discussion and, of course, a fascinating look at the way we are making our purchases today in terms of buying sports cars or utility vehicles. And I come away with some great advice here.
We have a lot to look forward to in the future.
Absolutely. Okay, that's all the time we have for today. We'll be back with more Fox on Trends. Stay tuned for a complete news update right here on the Fox News Channel.